The first time the police showed up at my cabin, lights flashing against the pine trees, I thought maybe they'd gotten lost. It was the middle of the week, the valley was quiet, and the only thing I'd been guilty of was stacking firewood. But then I saw Hera, arms crossed, lips pursed, standing behind the officers like a queen sending in her soldiers. Karen, the self-appointed enforcer of the homeowners association, the very woman who thought she could control me on land that was mine long before she ever moved in. The officer cleared his throat. "Sir, we received a complaint about an unauthorized structure here in this valley. We need to confirm ownership." Karen smirked like she'd already won. That's when I realized what this was. Not a mistake, not confusion. This was a challenge. She thought I was just some squatter with an old cabin tucked away in the pines. What she didn't know was that the cabin, the forest, the river, the hills stretching out farther than her eyes could see, they all belonged to me. My grandfather had bought the valley decades ago, poured his life into preserving it, and left it to me. Still, I didn't say a word right then. I let the officer do his job. I pulled out the deed from my desk drawer, dust still on the leather folder. The officer's eyes widened as he read the papers, flipping through official seals and signatures. Karen's smug smile faded. "Looks like he's the legal owner of this entire valley," the officer said flatly, handing the papers back. Karen's face went red, but she didn't back down. "Well, even if that's true, he's violating HOA guidelines. We have rules here. We can't just let anyone build whatever they want." That was the moment I almost laughed. She thought her HOA rules stretched past the neighborhood into the very heart of my land. She didn't know that my property line began before her subdivision even started, and that the HOA had no jurisdiction here at all. But instead of mocking her, I stayed calm. "Karen, this cabin has stood here longer than your HOA has existed. My grandfather built it with his own hands. You have no authority here." She stormed off, muttering about taking this higher. The cops left, embarrassed to have been dragged into a feud that wasn't theirs. But I knew it wasn't over. Karen wasn't the type to let things go. Sure enough, over the next few weeks, she made it her mission to harass me. She called in more complaints: noise, trash, illegal hunting, even suspicious activity. Each time, the cops had to respond, and each time they left shaking their heads, realizing there was nothing wrong. I started recognizing them by name. Some even apologized on their way out. The truth was, Karen wasn't just trying to push me out as she was trying to control everything around her. That valley was wild, untamed, unpredictable. It didn't fit into her neat little HOA handbook, and that scared her. But for me, the valley wasn't just property. It was memory, legacy, and home. I remembered sitting on a porch with my grandfather, listening to him tell stories about how he saved up every dime to buy the land, how he swore it would never be chopped up by developers, how he wanted it to stay a sanctuary for generations. So, when Karen escalated things this time, sending a formal HOA letter, taped right to my cabin door, I knew I had to put an end to it. The letter claimed I was trespassing on HOA-monitored land and demanded I remove the cabin within 30 days. That's when I decided to call a meeting, not with the HOA, but with the actual residents of the valley and my neighbors, families who had lived near the valley for years, ranchers, hikers, fishermen, even a few who quietly admired the cabin from afar. I invited them over for a cookout, lit a fire, and opened my home. When everyone gathered, I told them the truth. I owned the valley outright. The cabin wasn't just legal, it was part of the history of this place. I explained Karen's harassment, how she tried to claim power where she had none. And then I asked them, did they want this land preserved, or turned into another overregulated HOA project? The response was overwhelming. People clapped, cheered, some even shook my hand. They told stories about how their kids played in the river, how hunters relied on the forest, how hikers cherished the trails. The valley wasn't just mine, it was theirs too, in spirit. When Karen found out about the meeting, she showed up uninvited, yelling about permits and codes. But this time, she wasn't facing just me. She was facing an entire community. And they pushed back. One of the older ranchers looked her dead in the eye and said, "This valley doesn't belong to your home. It belongs to HEMA and to all of us who love it. Go back to your cul-de-sac." For the first time, Karen didn't have a comeback. She left in silence, fuming but defeated. In the weeks that followed, she stopped sending the cops. The harassment ended. The valley grew quiet again, except for the sounds of the river and the wind through the pines. I kept the cabin just as it was, a place of peace and history, and I welcomed anyone who wanted to share in its beauty except those who tried to control it. Looking back, I realized Karen wasn't just fighting me, she was fighting freedom itself. The valley was too big for her rules, too wild for her chains, and in standing up for it, I wasn't just protecting land, I was protecting a promise. My grandfather's voice echoed in my mind: "This valley will outlive us all, but only if you defend it." And that's exactly what I did. The lesson? Don't let anyone trick you into believing they hold power over what's rightfully yours. Sometimes, the loudest voices are the most fragile, and sometimes, the quiet strength of legacy, community, and truth is all you need to win. The valley stood tall that day, and so did I.